Well, welcome to our leadership interviews. It's great to have you with us. I've really been looking forward to this particular one. I enjoy them all, but our guest today is somebody I've known for a long time. I look back, Michael, I think it's like 30 years ago.
I was thinking 30. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really fun to have Michael Johnson with us, and he is a director of alumni and church engagement. Did I get that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, at Trevecca Nazarene University, which is one of our 8 sister schools in North America. And our friendship, I think, Michael and I, our friendship has been what I think is the case between our different Nazarene schools. We're just I often say we're just like cousins from the same family,
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
like it.
our mission, our purpose, our love for our alma maters is real, but we love and support each other. So I'm excited
Absolutely.
to to have you on here, Michael. So
Well,
just
it's my honor.
yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much.
yeah. For our students who are in the fundraising, networking, and community engagement class, I thought, man, you've had a few trips down those streets before. So when I was thinking about someone for this week, you came to mind. So tell us a little bit about your work. How did you get started in higher ed, and your history with TNU? Love to hear
Yeah.
about
I think I can do this fairly quickly. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. My father's a Nazarene minister. And in 1975, we moved to Jackson, Mississippi. And I spent my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years at an inner city school in Jackson. And it was just transformational in so many ways. I don't have time to go into detail about what a great time period that was for me while I was in high school. But I think, growing up, I'd always thought, if I go to a Nazarene college, I'm going to go to Bethany Nazarene, which is now Southern Nazarene University. But moving to Mississippi opened the door, I think,
Sure.
to looking at Trevecca. And there were a couple of people that specifically recruited me. And so in the fall of 1978, I did start at Trevecca. And I know that being a student admissions counselor, I actually traveled quite a bit for the
Me too.
for the college while I was a student. I learned how to talk about Trevecca and tell the story before I officially took a college class. I mean, it was a training camp to learn how to tell the Trevecca story, and I've kind of been doing it ever since. I did that for most of my first 3 years in college, and then worked for a year right out of college at Mid-America Nazarene College, now University, and was an admissions counselor and kind of did the same thing. We decided to move back to Nashville with after the birth of our first son, and so I spent 2 years in banking and thought corporate banking really felt pretty good. I liked putting the coat and tie on and being around money, even if I didn't make much,
Gave
but
you hope,
yeah, exactly. But in 1985, the Trevecca asked me to come back to go to work for them. I spent 4 years as assistant director of admissions. 1989, for 3 years, I was the director of public information. And then in 1992, we moved to Oklahoma, and I was on staff at Oklahoma City First Church of the Nazarene. And
that's where our paths crossed.
And that's where we got in touch for the first time, because as you may remember, I restarted the SNU baseball program back 1995, 96, 97. In 97, we moved back to Nashville. I became the Associate Dean of Students for Community Life at Trevecca. Did that for 12 years. And then in 2009, Dr. Boone, our president, asked me to come to work with him, primarily in church relations.
Who could say no to Dan Boone, huh?
Exactly. And so that's kind of morphed into the position that I now hold. And in 2014, they added the alumni office responsibilities to my list of duties. And so that's where we get the alumni and church engagement moniker that I now hold. But I'm approaching the completion of my 30th year of employment at Trevecca here this next month. So
at this point, I'm just glad to be anywhere for that long.
Isn't that the truth? Glad to be alive that long.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you had mentioned, finishing high school years in Jackson, Mississippi. And for our students who may not have as much knowledge about the Nazarene schools and our regions and those kind of things, give them a little bit of a feel of the geographic region, the educational zone that Trevecca represents.
I would say that it's one of the really, I think, ingenious facets of the denomination. From its founding, we were interested in world missions and in education, in addition to our ministries to the poor and a lot of the justice issues that are so important to people now. But for the Church of the Nazarene, we have 8 regionally located institutions of higher learning, and Trevecca serves as the official institution, partner institution in the southeastern United States. So we have 10 districts that comprise the ministry of the Church of the Nazarene in the southeast, and it's the states of Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina, the western half of Kentucky, all of Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama.
Yeah, a lot of miles to travel, right? You like me, you love connecting with people, so I love getting out, but you put in a lot of miles going to events and seeing people across the region, don't you?
I did up until the last 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah. We're all staying home now, right?
Yeah, but no, it's I've always enjoyed travel, and I've enjoyed interacting with people, whether I knew them or not.
Me too.
I mean, we're in this stage right now where about the only thing we get out for is food at this point, or to take it to our both sets of parents are still alive in their 80s and 90s, and so travel around town is pretty well restricted. But even when you go to the grocery store, it's almost like the social distance has created a distance in our spirits to a certain extent.
Yeah.
When you see people in a setting like that, and grocery stores eerily quiet at times.
Right.
People were walking down our street the other day, and I hadn't spoken to a person other than my wife, in 2 or 3 days, and I'd stepped out on the front porch and just said, "Hi, people. Hi, humans."
Hey, y'all. How you doing, man? Yeah, I feel that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you would absolutely be an honorary member of a group that I describe myself to my students and anybody else that gets to know me, and that is that I am a friend raiser.
Yes.
And that is
it's a great term.
That's your heart too. In fact, when I was on the call today, Kristen, who is one of my current students, I mentioned on the call to the class that I said, "Hey, Kristen already knows Michael, who I'm going to talk to today, because he, met up and was trying to help with some job thinking ideas and things." So I told him, I said, "Michael's kind of like me at Trevecca. He just loves people, loves to help connect people and help them." And so I thought that was an extra treat to have you, because
that's great.
We're kind of two birds of the same feather,
Love it.
Yeah. Well, cool. So you mentioned one of the things too, a second ago, when you were talking about, social justice and some of the key issues that are really important to not just all of ed students, but students globally, and certainly, in the United States. In this class, we talk some about cause marketing, and that they're going to have opportunities to be a part of organizations and agencies that are maybe, raising funds and trying to solve problems with health or clean water, or you name it. But it's one of the things that I really love about having done this class over the last 6-7 years is night one, we talk about I asked them, what are you passionate about, to the point where you'd either give of your resources and volunteer your time. I mean, we have this incredible conversation. So I'd be fascinated to, from where you sit there in Nashville, to say, hey, what are the students at Trevecca? What are the students at what are the students at Trevecca with some of those causes, those things that they're just like, it just stirs their heart, it just fires them up?
I think one of the things that's been really interesting about the last few years, in particular for me, observing behavior, is that among this generation of
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
there really is a sense of if I have something and another person doesn't have it,
Mm-hmm.
I, there's almost, I don't want to say it's a sense of guilt. I think it's more a sense of responsibility to see what
Yeah.
I
What
can
can I do
do
about that? Yeah.
about that
Mm-hmm.
inequity. What
Mm-hmm.
can I do about that situation? You know, and it's not like it's not like you got a you know a situation where it's impossible to you know bring all of the forces to bear. You
Mm-hmm.
even though it can be overwhelming, I think a lot of people are looking at what small thing even can I
Mm-hmm.
do to
Yeah.
alleviate this sort of imbalance that's
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of I guess nobility in that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's also a joy stealer sometimes, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't change the entire world. This is something that I've tried to remind myself.
Mm-hmm.
What I've got to do is try to figure out whose world I can change,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
taking a certain sort of action. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think younger people are finding ways maybe that
Mm-hmm.
people even our age and older,
Right.
we operated through institutions.
Mm-hmm.
We found ways to either give money to an
Mm-hmm.
institution or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
depend on somebody to do something on our
Mm-hmm.
behalf. And
Mm-hmm.
I think now younger folks are
Mm-hmm.
getting creative about how they can
Yeah.
do it themselves.
Yeah, and that's part of the creation of crowdfunding, right?
Yeah,
Somebody's able to say this is not right, or we can do better than this, and who's with me, and people start kind of jumping in and saying, I want to help with that because that's an issue that's important to me too,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I have said, of course, over the last few years, there's a lot of press and opinions about millennials, and really the millennials have now graduated from our institutions.
That's right.
So I often just refer to 20 somethings because some of the 20 something group is millennial and some of them are Gen Zs now.
Yeah,
But along the same lines, one of the things that I've said oftentimes when I hear unfair, disparaging remarks about those whatevers, I'm like, hey, I don't know who in that age group, but that is not those are not the 20 somethings I know.
right.
No, those are not the people that are, the ones that I know. There are some things they're passionate about, some things they're upset about, and they're going to change the world. I really believe that.
I, yeah, I mean I struggle with generalizations of
I
groups
do too. I do too.
anyway. I
Yeah, I do
I
too.
I think sometimes we get so caught up in
Mhm,
trying to make sure that we have all these different classifications set up so we can bring
mhm.
some sort of order to the world. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's unfair
I do
to
too.
individual personalities,
Mhm,
and you can talk about someone being, they might be 20 years old, but you say, well, they've got an old soul. Well, no, what they have is characteristics that are very similar to people that might be older than they
right,
are,
right.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
millennials, I think, have gotten kind of a bum rap. I
I
think
do
they
too.
have felt at times like they were caught in the middle maybe.
Mhm, mhm.
So can you pause just for a second, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think millennials um, have so much promise that um, the world needs to learn how to tap into.
Mhm,
I think the thoughtfulness that is often
mhm,
described about that generation
mhm,
is worthy
mhm,
of other generations looking to and paying
mhm,
attention to. I
mhm,
think I think one of the things that concerns me most, Jeff, about the way a lot of people interact is that it's the old adage that people don't listen to understand; they listen to make their point after this
mhm,
person's done talking.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I think the notion that I hear a lot of people referring to now of being seen or
mhm,
heard, yeah, I
mhm,
see you, man, or I hear you.
mhm.
I think I think that is, you know, something that I've had to take to heart. Sarah and I have 37, 33, and 30-year-old sons. And we spend a lot of time, you know, talking with them because they live all over the country, either texting or on the phone, but we're not necessarily present with them nearly as much as we'd like to be. And so, especially our 30-year-old has really challenged us to be in the moment. And I think, I mean, Austin at 30 years of age is kind of, I guess he wouldn't.
He would qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, he's right on the borderline there, and of that generational line. But I think that's where a lot of millennials are themselves, and we do ourselves a disservice when we dismiss them because they don't communicate in the same ways perhaps that we do.
Right, exactly. And I heard somebody say a while back, and I kind of adopted it too, is that if you really look what millennials and Gen Zs really want out of the workplace, out of the workforce, in terms of, you know, investing in them and teaching them and developing them and whole life balance and those kind of things. The statement that I heard, somebody said, well, those are all things that we as in the older crowd wanted to, and just didn't have the courage to ask for.
Right.
And I thought, ow, that's, yeah.
I think I'm 60 years old. I'll go ahead and put that out there for your students to kind of be able to weigh against it. My dad is 83, I'm 60, and my oldest son's 37. You know, when I look at that those time lapses in between, we have to understand that I think my age group, you know, I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt a lot more compliant. It wasn't that I didn't feel strongly about speaking up for what I believed in, but I was taught to respect my elders, you know, and so I didn't push back against it sometimes like I did. One of my favorite songs, and I don't know if your students would know it or not, it was a big hit in 1988, probably most of them were born.
They weren't born yet, but keep going.
Mike and the Mechanics had a big hit with a song called "The Living Years," and I would encourage you, you know, students to go look that up and pay attention to the lyric. First 2 or 3 lines in the song: every generation blames the one before, and all of their frustrations come beating on your door. And it's a story about how the generations interact with each other, and it's a really good study in how generations need to listen to each other and say words that will have meaning long after we're gone.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, you know, as we think about, you know, again, the 20-somethings, they're, you know, in the case of my class, you know, I got several seniors, but I've also got a bunch of juniors in the class, you know, and so they're in the stage where they're either seeking their first full-time job or they're juniors looking toward that. So I always ask our guests to say, you know, give them some perspective from where you sit to say, you know, hey, here's what I would encourage a young professional, you know, that's getting started. You know, what are some recommendations you would have for them to say, based on what I've seen, here's what I wish I'd known when I was 20.
I'll tell you something that changed my life. I was 23. I mentioned a little bit about our journey. Sarah and I got married in 1981, right before our senior year in college. Spent a year there as seniors at Trevecca. Then we moved to Olathe to work at Mid-America. I came back in 1983 looking for a job. We just decided to move back to Nashville. And I turned down a couple other job opportunities in the Olathe area, but we just felt like with both sets of parents living in Nashville, we just decided to head back. And I went to an interview at Commerce Union Bank downtown. I don't know. I met Kristen when she was in Nashville back about a month or so ago, and I don't know if I told her this story or not, but I majored in communication and human relations in college. Kind of I don't know, it's a generalist type
Mhm.
of
I was a
degree.
comm major too, so I get
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
and so I mean, I've always said if you don't know what to major in, major in communication because it has so many, you know,
Every
different
industry needs
directions it could
help.
go. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think this story applies regardless of major. I went into interview and uh, I remember the guy's name was Dennis Miller in part because I mean we remember a Dennis Miller from
Yes,
Saturday
from the
Night Live
American.
years,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, Dennis Miller worked in custom banking for Commerce Union, which meant that he dealt with high-end customers,
Mhm.
entertainers, uh,
Mhm.
and a lot of healthcare professions in
Mhm.
Nashville and all that.
Mhm.
And here's how I applied for my job at Commerce Union. I meeting Mr. Miller, and I said, I really don't even know why I'm here, Mr. Miller. I I never had a course in banking. I did minor in business. I mean, I hardly even balanced my checkbook. And he goes, hey, wait a minute.
Slow down, bro.
He said the guy that told me that I should interview you really thinks you have something to offer. And
Mhm.
he said to me that Michael really knows how to get along with people.
Mhm.
And
That was
then
truth.
Mr. Miller looked at me and he said, I can teach you how to be a banker. I can't teach you how to get along with people.
Mhm.
And it changed everything
That's a
for me,
nugget,
Jeff.
man. That's a
It,
nugget.
I don't know how many college students I've told that story to over the years,
Well, we all need that.
because ultimately, obviously, you need to have technical training.
Mhm.
It's important to get degrees and to have
Mhm.
knowledge,
Mhm.
but but in a digital world, in a social media world, in
Mhm.
a world where people retreat into silos and video games
Mhm.
and for a lot of people right now, this thing that we're facing where we have to stay quarantined, so to speak, I don't know if it's a lot different for certain people.
True.
They've kind of
Yeah.
lived this sort of life.
Mhm.
Being able to take what you've learned, whatever the
Mhm.
subject matter is, whatever the
Mhm.
whatever the major or degree is, if you can't find a way to express that in
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about things like fundraising and
Mhm.
in relationship oriented industries
Mhm.
like this
Mhm.
class is touching on,
Yeah.
being able to interact well with people and to get
Mhm.
along with people.
Yeah.
I know this, that our middle son, for example, sells pharmaceuticals
Mm.
on the internet and the telephone. He sells to people all over the country,
Oh, wow.
and he's become reasonably successful basically because the people that he's calling to talk to about pharmaceuticals, they like Brian.
They like him.
They
Yeah.
like they want to hear from him even if they can't buy anything right now.
People like to do business
Yeah.
with people they enjoy spending time around.
So it's not. I love mixed metaphors. It ain't rocket surgery, man.
Well,
So
that I hadn't heard that one for a while, so I like that. I might borrow that. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I think there's so much truth to that. You can be taught any skill really, but if someone is either unwilling or unable to just connect to people in authentic ways, they're going to struggle no matter what their industry is. And the
I
inverse is if they can connect to people and be successful in the friend raising business, then
yeah.
it's going to be like your experience is like, don't worry about banking. If you can interact with people and have them feel comfortable with you and trust you, I can't buy that.
By the way, I got the job. I worked there for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but one other thing that I would just say that I think is difficult in this age because we're looking at devices,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
often. I I believe that one of the things that I learned as a communication studies major, human relations,
Mhm.
eye contact.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, being able to maintain contact in the context of a
Yeah.
conversation with
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
especially if you're planning to ask them for a gift,
Yeah. Yeah.
being able to look a person in the eye and call them by name. Those two
Yeah.
things, in my view,
Mm-hmm.
are so practical,
Mm-hmm.
but absolutely necessary in this game
Yeah. Yeah.
of fundraising that you're
Yeah.
talking
Exactly. A couple of things that I'll ask you to comment on,
about.
and
Sure.
then we'll kind of land the plane. But one of the books that, well, the book that I've used for this course for several years is called The Generosity Network by Jennifer McCrae and Jeffrey
Yeah,
Walker,
yeah,
and they talk about that reality that relationships are everything.
yep.
I mean, these two are both people who've raised tens of millions of dollars for
Wow.
dozens of organizations with all the technical expertise and knowledge. But that's, it comes down to, it's all about relationships.
Yeah, it
And
is.
the other piece that I'll ask you to comment on too is in their writing, they talk about how for so long fundraising was really this transaction. A goes to B, makes an
Yeah,
ask, B gives it, and it's done. And even the subtitle of their book talks about the transformational impact. So so I'll also love to hear you talk about maybe an example or two where someone has invested in the university or invested in a department or school or program that's just been transformational, both for them as the giver and the receiver side. Because sometimes we think, well, it can be transformational for the receiver, but the giver is just kind of writing a check. But there's that potential for this powerful connection between giver and receiver. So I'd
yeah.
love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'd be happy to. It's probably not a problem if I mention names, but I won't mention the family name. But
Okay.
there's one family at Trevecca in particular that has been incredibly generous to the
Mm-hmm.
university,
Mm-hmm.
and it all started in the 80s with the gift of a parcel of land, and it kind of built from there.
Mm-hmm.
And this family, when they were very young, just the couple, the patriarch and matriarch of the
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
needed a way to make a living, and they started taking in laundry and kind of doing a cleaning business out of their garage, and it morphed into a multinational uniform company. They became
Yeah.
very, very wealthy,
Yeah.
and they began to watch before they ever gave to Trevecca. They watched Trevecca.
Yeah. Yeah.
They gave this parcel of land, and then they watched again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when they were convinced that the integrity of the leadership of the university
Yeah.
was something that they personally could believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and that the university was staying true to its mission,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then they really bought in.
Yeah.
And they have been so generous to the university across the years. And again, a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
But I also remember watching them I traveled with one of our choirs,
Mm-hmm.
and we were at the church that they attended when they would be at their Florida home.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the after concert pizza and,
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola
Yeah.
party and all that.
Yeah.
I watched this fabulously wealthy couple allow people to continue to talk around the room, but they were going around picking up the empty Coke cans and pizza boxes.
Cleaning
And
up. Yeah.
they showed me that you can have a great business plan, and you can be
Uh-huh.
very successful, and you can make a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then you can give away a lot of money,
Yeah.
but the money only changed circumstances for them. It
Yeah.
didn't change them.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
being able to stay authentic,
Uh-huh.
again, back to that generational thing. I
Yeah.
think millennials in particular really value authenticity. I
Uh-huh.
think when you're trying to raise money with people,
Yeah.
you got to be real with
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I've seen from this particular
Mm-hmm.
family. They are
Mm-hmm.
just as humble as they ever were. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they'll just give you whatever you ask for.
No. No.
But their heart is open to people who are true and
Yeah.
honest, and
Yeah. Yeah.
fulfilling their mission.
And I'm sure, even without knowing them or knowing the depth of that story, I'm sure that the joy was evident in them.
Oh,
I mean,
every
just
time every time they come to
real.
campus,
Yeah.
you, there is this there's this glow
Yeah.
in their faces at
Right.
what they feel like they've been able to be a
Yeah.
part of.
Right. Right.
We don't have time to talk about this doctoral program that I'm hopefully finishing. I'm trying to write
Oh, you're
the, the
close.
last
Yeah.
the last
Yeah.
chapter of my dissertation right now.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied the relationship of generosity and satisfaction in life
Yeah.
and commitment to an organization, and
Mhm.
it's been really exciting to see a lot of the things that I've felt in my heart, be borne out in research. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
I, what you're talking about there, Jeff, is absolutely true.
Yeah.
The joy that's associated with getting beyond yourself and
Yeah.
making an impact, and for people who are going to be involved in fundraising,
Yeah.
you're not just trying to raise money, you're trying to provide an avenue for another person to have a blessing, a sense of
Yes.
blessing.
Yes.
You're the conduit for someone to attach, to
That's it.
that they can give to something
Hmm.
that they feel passionate about.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I always hope the students in this class come away with, is that in giving and receiving and raising dollars and raising and building relationships, that there can be joy on both sides of
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
And that's what keeps dudes like you and me doing what we're doing, because we see that and we see the reality and the value of that.
Yeah.
And it's terrific to see people have that joy and have that relationship with the university and the people there that they've grown to love and appreciate. And I think it touches on a part of that all of us really have, even we don't realize it maybe, is that we all want to be a part of something that's bigger than me, that's bigger than
Oh,
us,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
To just
Oh,
say,
yeah.
hey, that dear husband and wife and their family and their business, they're a part of the Trevecca story.
Yes.
And families like that are part of the Olivet story. And they're just thrilled and honored to be able to say, I helped that building to go up, or I helped that program to get off the ground. And they're not thumping their chest. They're literally humbled
That's
that they
right.
could contribute and be a part of that.
No doubt.
So, well, I do want to say we need to do another call so I can hear more about your dissertation research, because I know that's something very near to your heart because of your relationship with the late Dr. Stan Toller
Oh,
and
man.
some of his
Yeah.
concepts and principles. So you and I, if nobody else, we need to have a follow up so we
I
can talk about that.
I would be thrilled to be able
I'd
to do
love
that.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And if I could just say a quick
Yeah, go
word to your
ahead.
students,
Absolutely.
you're, you all are a part of something that students like yourselves have never before experienced. And I just want to salute you, for sticking with, the class that you're involved in, and you're learning from a wonderful man. I know you already know that, but I just want to say that we are depending on you
Mhm,
to take all these things that you're learning and to,
mhm,
like, Paul said to Timothy, to fan into flame the gift
mhm.
that's in you,
Yeah, that's it.
because you can change the world by
Mhm.
changing the world for people that you come into contact
Yeah.
with. And I just want
Mhm.
to wish you the best.
Thanks so much. Well, Michael, as I said off the top before we started, you and I could go on and on and on and
We could.
on, but it's been a real joy to dialogue with you and to share you and some of your experiences with students in the class. So God bless you. Great success to you and your family and everybody at Trevecca. We love and appreciate you all.
Well, and I wish the same for you and all of that. You've
Thank
been
you.
such a great part of their story up there, and the lives of so many people. And
Thank you.
I'm really honored by this opportunity to spend the afternoon with you here.
Likewise. Well, thanks. We'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.